Hello everybody, welcome to Freeway Bible Study for the 8th day of March 2018. Now we're on Genesis 9. My name is Kurt Bell. I'm a non-believer. Nevertheless, I enjoy studying the Bible and I enjoy thinking about it. So I read one chapter a day, and then when I'm done reading it, I think about it. Speaking of which, there's a cross right there. It's a church. It's a cross-line church here in, I think we're in Lake Forest. Whoop, hold on. There we go. Alright, now if you've heard my videos in the past, you may know what my voice is like. It's a little different. I just came out of that building right there. I had my some deep cleaning done on one quarter of my teeth, one quadrant I guess it's called. So I'm all numbed up. But nevertheless, besides being all numbed up, I wanted to go ahead and do it. Oh, and here, if you've ever listened to radio in the Los Angeles area, and you know the Saddleback Eye Center right there, see that? Dr. Manger, he used to have commercials, especially on KFI all the time. You know, Dr. Manger, Saddleback Eye Center, laser vision correction. That's the place right there. My dentist is right behind that. So, anyway, I'm a little off topic, so I wanted to apologize if my voice sounds weird. It's because I'm basically all numbed up. There it is, Crossline Church right there. So this chapter is the chapter 9 is Noah God basically talking to Noah and his sons and setting up the covenant with them. And I had incorrectly identified that in previous video I incorrectly identified that the covenant, see, I can't speak right. The covenant was set up earlier. It wasn't. It was set up now. And that covenant, this is a tough chapter. Hold on. Because there's a lot to cover there. For some reason I feel like I'm going to have a hard time. My mind just doesn't seem quite up to it. But let's see if I can get through this. It's a shame because this is an important one to be lisping my way through with this bad speaking. Okay, let me just go through the chapter. Okay, it opens with God reminding Noah that he will mention that God remembers Noah. And, here's the DMV. And this is the DMV where I used to come when I was, this is Laguna Hills, that's where we are. This is Laguna Hills DMV. And I used to come here when I was a driving instructor. So, back on track. So, God remembers Noah. And he remembers all the animals that were with Noah. All the cattle especially. It's interesting how he points that out. Clearly, cattle were very important, in the lives of the authors of the Bible, of this chapter at least, as it would have been in the lives of all the people at that time. Less so us, right? We don't think about cattle so much. It's kind of a quaint term related for farm animals and stuff like that. When we think of filling the ark, we're thinking mostly of wild beasts because we're cognizant of just how many types there are. So I guess it's not surprising that God remembers Noah and his family and all the cattle and whatever other beasts happened to be in the ark as well. God then tells Noah, oh gosh, why am I struggling so hard? I can't quite remember. God tells Noah hold on. I got a big truck coming that way. God tells Noah that, now I remember, the next part was that he's giving man dominion over the earth. That he will, the flesh of all animals will be available to mankind to consume, in the same way that the herb of the field has been available to mankind. Now, of course, we know that there are dirty animals, and some of those animals, I guess, will be more clearly defined later, and will be prohibited from eating, but maybe not at this point. The next thing is that God, he's laying out some prohibitions here. The next one is that he says that man can eat of the flesh of animals, but he doesn't want man to be eating the blood. Something about life being connected with blood. So I'm picturing that, and I don't know anything about ancient practices, but I'm almost imagining that we'd have to drain the blood out of the body of the animal before we can consume it. This does sound that way. So I think that's our instruction to drain the blood, because the blood is part of the life force or something. And then next there's a verse there that's very confusing about, so too the blood of man will be required. And then attached to that is a comment about, whosoever takes the life of a man, his life shall in turn be taken by man. So I think that's a very clear indication that God is sanctioning killing in the event that I just realized I'm at 99,000 miles. Another 1,000 to go, and I'm at 100. So that sanctioning killing if a man kills another man, it doesn't say the word murder, so I don't know exactly what that. Does that include accidental killing? Do we have to kill them as well? I don't know, but I could see how that definitely can be used to sanction things like the death penalty. So there we go. So God's remembering man. He's giving the beasts of the earth, all animals, over to man to consume, and to dominion over earth. He's indicating that he will require, yes, I missed that. I knew I was missing something. He says, after he says, I'm going to give dominion over the earth, he said, I'm going to demand sacrifice. And something about the blood thing too. So, but it really did read like there was a telling Noah that sacrifice will be required. But we know that they were sacrificing. We know that Abel offered a sacrifice, a burnt offering. And we know that Noah offered the mother of all burnt offerings at the end of the flood. So is this just a reminder to sacrifice? Because there wasn't any, that wasn't explicitly asked earlier in any earlier chapters. Okay, so recount once again. Sorry, I was just, like I said, I don't script this out. I'm thinking it out loud. This is a complicated chapter. So God remembers man. He gives over all animals, all creation to man for feeding himself. He tells them that he doesn't want to do it right. You need to remove the blood from the animals before you eat them. He tells them that he expects sacrifice, and then he also expects that something about man's blood belongs to the Lord as well, and that if anyone kills a man, so he too can be killed by man, by the hand of man. And next is an interesting bit about a rainbow. Not rainbow, but a rainbow, but rainbows in general. God says that the rainbow will be his. He doesn't call it a rainbow, though. He calls it a bow. And at first I was picturing God with like a crossbow or a longbow or something. He said, I would put my bow in the clouds. And I was picturing he's up there resting his big old, bow and arrow thing in the clouds. But then I realized, oh no, he's talking about the rainbow. And I never really caught that before, and I kind of remember basically that was the case. And I've heard Christians sometimes refer to rainbows in a spiritual manner, but he's indicating that the rainbow will be the sign of his covenant with man. and his also a sign that he will not of God's decision that he will never do this again. He regrets killing everything, and he will not do it again, even if mankind is evil, which we know they are. So there we go. So we had I'm sorry I should keep recounting it, but this is helping me to remember, and I want to remember this stuff. So we know that God remembers man and the animals. He gives them over to humankind for consumption, demanding sacrifice, and also something about the blood of man belonging to God. Gives man permission to kill one another should they kill each other first. And then he says, and he promises he'll never do the flood again, never destroy man in the same way again. And then seals the promise, puts a bow on it, so to speak, by saying that every time you see a rainbow, that'll be a sign of my promise. And actually, the way the language reads, God is saying not so much a sign for man, but a sign for himself. God is using the rainbow as a reminder to himself of his promise, as if God needs a reminder, like putting and again. Sorry to push the bow analogy, but he's putting a bow on his finger. So remember, remember, note to self, don't wipe out all of humanity again with the flood. So there we go. And then there's one last bit of the chapter, and then I'll have something to say. I'll come back and I have at least one point I want to talk about. The last bit is Noah decides that he's going to, become a farmer. Well, he actually says in the Bible, it says a husband. He takes up husbandry, which I guess I usually think of husbandry as, the care and feeding of animals, but I guess it can also include agriculture. And Noah lays out a vineyard, and I guess this is like some years later, and it's producing, and he's making wine, and guess what? He gets drunk. And this is the point that I wanted to make, the part I wanted to talk about. There wasn't something I wanted to go back to. This is it, leading up to it now. So Noah gets drunk, and in his drunkenness, he takes off all of his clothes, or he's naked for whatever reason, in his tent, and he's doing fine. Now he's got 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth? I can't pronounce his name. And now Ham has a son. We learn about Ham's son, Canaan. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. And yeah, that is similar to the word Canaanite, which pops up a lot in the Bible. And so we want to stick a pin in what's happening right now for future reference throughout our tour of the Bible. Not Shem, that's one of the 3 Stooges. Shem. How did I make it to chapter 8 and not make that mistake yet? Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now here's the important point. So Noah got drunk, and he's passed out in his tent, and Ham, who I believe is his youngest son, comes in and notices his father's nakedness. And if you read the Bible, it's very simple. Now, I'm afraid I didn't read. You know what? I forgot to read the New International Version. I just dwelt on the King James Version for this one, and I did read it and listen to it about 10 times. It says specifically, it doesn't say anything more than he saw his father Noah naked, and then he went out of the tent and reported that fact to his brothers, Japheth and Shem. And those 2 boys then, or grown men, did something pretty interesting, strategic. They took a cloth and they backed into the tent with the cloth dangling off their respective shoulders, and then when they got in the right position, they let go and it draped over Noah's body. So they did this in such a way that they didn't have to see their father naked. I mean, who needs to see that after all? But apparently they knew that was a bad thing. And I couldn't help but read a little bit. I had to look things up because I was a little bit confused at this point. And that's a strike against this narrative, because if you need to look it up, that means you need the help of human interpretation. It strikes me as being a weakness, because that, interpretations differ, as you'll see when I get a little further along. And I thought this was going to be a short video, but I can see I have a little bit of a landscape to trudge over here. Okay, so let's just recount what happened there. Noah got drunk. Ham, who's got a son named Canaan, he spots that. He goes out, he sees his dad naked. He goes out, tells his brothers, who back in with cloth and cover their dad's nakedness up. And Dad wakes up a little later, and he knows what Ham has done. Now, we don't know how he knows that. I mean, how would he know if his son walked in and saw him naked? Unless God maybe put the spirit of understanding within, or maybe the fact of the blanket. But then why would he blame it on Ham? So anyway, there's more to the story than we know, and I think some have taken liberties with this fact. But Noah is pissed. I mean, sorry, excuse my language. He's mad. He's royally mad. I mean, he I guess the example he has of seeing how God can get mad and what God can do kind of makes what Noah's about to do look pale in comparison. He's not going to kill anybody after all. But he gets really mad, and he lays out a curse. And now remember, Noah's a patriarch. So oh, look at the dog with the thingamajigger. Now we wonder, how does a man or a father or anybody have power to lay out a curse? Well, I guess you can do it, but a curse that has any authority? I mean, as a father, can I curse my daughter? Does it mean anything? But apparently it does with Noah, because he says, Ham shall be a servant unto men. And I know, actually, whoops, I made a mistake there. He doesn't actually lay the curse upon Ham, and that's really interesting. He lays the curse, this is why I introduced Ham's son earlier. He lays the curse upon Ham's son, Canaan, I guess it is. He says, Canaan and his descendants shall be servants unto men. Specifically, he lays out kind of a hierarchy. He says, Japheth, they will be servants unto Japheth, who in turn, Japheth and his descendants will dwell in the house of Shem. Which kind of leads me to believe that Shem will be Shem's descendants will be the heads of the leaders of the future, and that Japheth's folks will, in some way, I guess they'll be a servant in turn. And it actually does say that the sons of Canaan will be servants of servants, so that makes sense if Japheth will be the servant of Shem, and Ham's Ham's sons, Canaan's descendants, will be the servants of all. It's confusing, but I think you see it. So there's going to be sets up a little hierarchy there for the three sons and their descendants, with all the guilt and all in the low rung on the totem pole going down to Canaan and all of his. Who, of course, are the descendants of Ham, who saw Noah naked. Does that make any sense? No, it doesn't really make any sense to me either. Until you kind of think about it in perspective of at the time that it was being written. When this stuff was being written, well, we need to ask ourselves, when this was being written, who are the Canaanites? Because that's how they did that back then, right? And it'll do this through succeeding chapters in the Bible now. You'll see that, Jephthah will give rise to the house of the Jebusites and the Damlekites and the Hittites, and so the Canaan gave right to the Canaanites. Who were the Canaanites in the times of, in the BC eras, the 1000 to 2000 BC, or any of that time? Who are these Canaanites? Were they real people? Yeah, they were. And they were part of a group that was living in that area called, the Levant, which is the Holy Land. And I think the Levant also may include areas of Egypt and maybe down into, Persian areas as well. I'm not exactly sure. I think it is, because I know that, ISIS used to hear Barack Obama always refer to them as ISIL, because the L at the end was the Islamic State of something in the Levant. So he was referring to that old area. in the Levant, the Canaanites occupied a particular area, and they were not necessarily the children of God, or that they were, because they were descendants of Canaan, according to the story, but they had their own gods. The most notable of those is Baal. And Baal, there's like different derivations of it. Baal was this god of thunder. And at the time that this was all, being written, the Old Testament days, so to speak, the Canaanites were under the thumb of the Israelites. Now, it starts to make sense all of a sudden when you realize that if you're writing a history and you want to paint in some logic and logic and sense about current circumstances by way of justification, what a great opportunity this is. Now, if you say that the Canaanites, who are basically subjugated by the Israelites and others, if you say that they are the descendants of Canaan, who is the son of Ham, who did something that pissed off Noah, that drew the curse, then it all lays into picture. The picture all lays into place, and now we understand why the curse was laid on Canaan and not Ham. Although he could have laid it on Ham and all of his descendants, but if he lays it specifically on Canaan, then it's less diluted. The curse is more direct to Canaan and everyone that holds the name of Canaan from that point forward. Well, look at that. See the surfboard rack on the scooter there? I want to get one of those for my bike. We're here at Laguna Beach, by the way. Just kind of riding around. Taking a long cut back from that guy cheated. Took a turn where he shouldn't. Oh no, he could. That's the right turn lane too. Taking a long cut back so I can do this video. So okay, let's back on it. So now do you see how that's kind of making sense? Wow, the ocean's as still as a lake. Wow. Okay, do you see how that kind of works out? So now we've got the justification for the subjugation of the Canaanites, the enslavement of the Canaanites. And that's where I think that's where the story at this chapter ends. I think I'm missing something. There might have been something right at the end there. Now it's just worth a note if I'm going to footnote something here, because like I said, I did a little reading. I try to avoid reading stuff, but I really needed to figure this one out, and I'm kind of disappointed in myself that I did that. But on the flip side, I'm glad, because I didn't realize the situation about the Canaanites. But I also read that the Ham and the Canaanites, it's also been used as justification for black slavery. That some, past references have been made that the Canaanites are the blacks. I mean, that sounds crude to say it that way. The Canaanites are the line that led to the black races, and that justification was made that since the curse was laid down by Noah to be servants, that was a justification for enslavement. Apparently, that line of reasoning has since been utterly dismissed by virtue of the fact that there's no reference at all in the Bible about the color of Ham's skin. Which, how could it be any different? He's flesh and blood of Noah, So all of them would have been roughly the same. All three of the boys. So now this chapter did a couple of things. One, the first reading. I'll finish with this. The first time I read through it, I was confused, and it was like it became one of those pass-through chapters that if you're not going to go back and read it again, you just move on. Maybe the next chapter is a little better. But after reading it 10 times, you can see that there's some substance there and a lot of this stuff of historical weight. So I'm really glad that I read it many times over, and I'm glad that I got a better understanding of it. Do I see political ambition in this one? Some reasons for the way things are? Yeah, definitely. I'm going to make a right turn here. Go up this street. I've never been up here. Yeah, there's definitely that. You can see this serving some political ends or some social ends, right? That gives me cause to believe that may have been some more human to this than divine in terms of the authorship. Look at that house. Wow. So I think I can leave it at that. Thank you for joining me today for Freeway Bible Study in chapter 9 of Genesis. And I'm sorry I'm a little out of it. The having that dental procedure and then doing this right afterwards kind of screwed me up. I think I'll go down here. Well, everybody have a great day. Make it a good life and a great day. Take care. Oh, wait, by the way, this really wasn't much of a Freeway Bible study. Whoa. That looks like a dead end. Don't want to be on any dead ends on a motorcycle. Especially steep hill dead ends. So, thank you. I guess it's not really much of a Freeway Bible study. It's basically a windy road Bible study and the Laguna Hills Bible study. No, it's not Laguna Hills. This is Laguna Beach. No, from Laguna Hills to Laguna Beach. Yeah. Okay. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.